part 2, our Get Ready With Me, talking about past jobs we've had. So we're not going to continue getting ready. We're just going to keep talking about our jobs. And buckle up, and you'll want to hear this. So we've had a very interesting job. I know it's kind of weird because now we're just like talking to the camera, not getting ready, but we don't want to like do another Get Ready because we're on a roll. So at this time we were also like, we had left Clever, but we really enjoyed like the hosting aspect there. Like we wanted to be those hosts. So we wanted to get into hosting. We had been trying to get into AfterBuzz TV for a while, which is Maria Menounos's. It was a podcast network at the time, but then they also recorded them and put them on YouTube. Yeah. It was mostly, like, I feel like it was before podcasts were a big thing, so most people watched them on YouTube. Yeah, and it was an after show, so basically any show on television, they would have a panel of hosts talk about the show. Like, we would watch it live, and then we would get on immediately and, like, live chat about it. So, you guys know we love TV. Like, so this was, like, made for us. Yeah. And the first show, so they were like, okay, we'll let you guys host a show. There's one no one signed up for, and it was Welcome to Sweden on NBC. On NBC, and it was brand new at the time, and it was Amy Poehler's sister, or Amy Poehler's brother, Greg Poehler, who, like, wrote and created the show. Based on his own life. Based on his real life, because he had married a Swedish woman and like moved to Sweden, and it was sort of like how like an American like integrates into Swedish life, and we loved it. It was so funny. Like, I wish we could find it now. I think there was only that one season. Yeah, we thought it was really funny, and I feel like it was canceled after like 1 or 2 seasons, but that was the first show we hosted, and once you got your foot in the door, you could like get other shows, and so then eventually I think New Girl was our favorite. Yeah, we were on the New Girl panel, which and Modern Family. And Modern Family, loved both of them. Did we do? We did a couple more, but those were the main ones. Yeah. And we loved the people we hosted with. Like, we were friends outside of, like, the gig. But we should say it wasn't paid, so it was kind of hard because after work, we would have to drive, like, deep into the valley. Yeah. So it was, like, kind of a commute, and then, you know, some of these shows were on really late, at least in LA. We started it when we were only working at Clever. Yeah. So it was still, like, we would come home and have to, like, drive there, and, yeah, we would watch them pretty late. But then once we started working like our other jobs, it became a lot like, much harder to do for free. And like then at that point, we also got to do, they did like, I mean, they allowed hosts to really like grow. They really did like foster growth there. Yeah. Because they would also send you to like some red carpets if you like could get a spot. And we got to do like red carpet interviews. Oh my God, what was that show that we loved with Brett Morin? Oh yeah, Ground Floor. No, that was with Skylar Astin. Yeah. It's gonna bother me. Let me look it up. Look it up. But we did Ground Floor too, right? Yeah, did we do that? Yeah, we did that after show. We did. That was Tyler Astin. Another show that ended too soon. Yeah. But yeah, we got to do like one red carpet interview where we interviewed this cast of this show, which was really fun. Chris D'Elia was one of the people we interviewed. He's like the only one that you probably know. And then we also did Undateable. Undateable was the show. It was we really loved cute. That show. And then we also did, oh my God, what's the show with Emily Osment? Why am I blanking? Oh, Young and Hungry. Young and Hungry. And that was on for a lot of seasons, so we were the hosts of that after show. And we also, I got to interview Jonathan Sadesky, is that how you say his last name? He was the star of that show. He was also in She's the Man. He was so nice. He was so nice. So I got to do like a one-on-one interview with him. We got to interview that Brooke girl. Yeah. So we got to do like one-on-one interviews too, which was really cool. Our favorite, I would say. Yeah, and they were all on YouTube, and they got like pretty good views. So it was good for like our reel at the time because we wanted to be hosts. Then do you want to go into? Yeah, so then from there we got Collider. So they still exist, and they kind of had a similar thing where we would watch shows and then talk about it, but it was definitely more produced. Like, it was a pretty big network, and we would only, they were like backed by a larger company. Yeah, and they focused mostly on like superhero shows. Yeah, which we loved. So we started on Supergirl, which was like the first season, and we actually loved that show. Yeah, we went in there because we really wanted to do The Flash or Arrow, but at the time Supergirl was in its first season, and they were like, well, we'll give you spots on this panel. Yeah, and we loved that, and they paid, which was nice, and it was closer to our house. Yeah. So we did that for a little bit. And then we also got into red carpet hosting for Press Pass LA. Jen, who runs it, she's so nice. Yeah. And we had this experience under our belt a little bit. And so she took a chance on us again and like let us host some red carpets. And that was really fun. We did like a Bachelor one and interviewed some Bachelor stars at the time. Yeah. Yeah. And we love talking to people. So I think that aspect we really liked. But everything else about it. It was like very hectic. Yeah. it was just a lot. Really competitive.
Yeah.
Just not like things that we innately resonate with.
Yeah.
But yeah, we liked the talking to people for sure. Still love that aspect. Yeah, so we did all of those for a little bit, but then eventually we just realized, like, you know, we're not going to be entertainment hosts, because we also didn't really we liked red carpet interviews and interviews, but we did not like how entertainment hosts specifically what they had to report on. Like, it was just constantly celebrity news, and that's not real news. Could be kind of salacious. Yeah, that's not real news. It's a little invasive. So basically, our goal was we always wanted our own talk show. Yeah. Which we know our voices are annoying. So that could like never happen. But that's like what we wanted to do. Yeah, so but that dream was slowly dying, and we were like, okay, well, we'll see like what's next for us. But then I've been interviewing for other jobs, and this one was funny because I like applied through a recruiter for a freelance job, which I knew was risky because it was only like a 3 or 4 month contract, and I never done freelance before, but I was like, okay, I could save my money because it paid really well, and like I could save my money and then wait until I find a new job. And it was through Disney. Technically it was like a Disney freelance job, but also through another entertainment company. I can't even remember what they were called. They were in Burbank. And so I interviewed both of the Disney offices, and then with the guy, I remember his name was Matt, at this entertainment company. But it was for Fab Life, if you guys remember Tyra Banks's talk show, and I would have been working, well, I did get the job, but on the digital team, and I was doing influencer outreach, and this was when influencers like weren't even a real thing. Yeah, brand new. And it was basically like I would reach out to influencers, like they wanted someone that knew influencers, and since we had started our blog at that point, we had been blogging. I was gonna say, this was around the time we started our blog. In college, we started it, so we had been doing 2014. Yeah, we had been doing it for a couple years. Yeah, this was like in 2015. Yeah, maybe 2016. Because through our blog, like we followed other bloggers to try to see what other people were doing. So we were familiar with the influencers that were big at the time. And I should also mention, when I was at the receptionist job, the owner had started another company that was an influencer marketplace. Again, didn't really exist at the time, so it was a good idea. And he would have me like reach out to influencers to see if they wanted to be on the platform, and then brands could go on and like hire these influencers. It was a good idea. So I was like promoted to manage this side of the business, and it was fine, but like the website wasn't even set up fully, and I was reaching out to these people and they were like, well, what is it? Like the website's not even set up. So I just felt like it was kind of going nowhere. Although it was a good idea, it was just like I didn't like what I was doing day to day, but I liked working with influencers. So that's why I started applying to I applied to this freelance job. And it was so funny because the girl that hired me at Disney, I feel like she just hired me because she said that she was from Carlsbad, where we used to live, and she also went to Cal State Long Beach. So we had like a lot in common. So she just really like vibed with me right away. Anyway, so I was hired to do the influencer outreach and basically find influencers that would promote the show for free, which is kind of unheard of. Like we would give them tickets to the show, but I don't think we paid anyone. And so I liked it because I actually believed in what the show was doing. I really enjoyed it. And our digital team was really small. I think there were only like 4 or 5 of us. And so I would drive to set. It was filmed at Culver Studios. And it was like when I realized like I love TV show sets. And so I really liked that. Like I said, I liked our team. We got to meet a lot of like really nice celebrities, and they would do like these digital segments, and I would just kind of be along for the ride because I wasn't really on their team. Like they worked full time and I was just a freelancer, but I vibed well with everyone. At that time, I like got out of Sprinkles, so I think it was just through Craigslist, saw this like small, I'm not gonna say the name, like a small marketing company was hiring for a social media, I think like assistant role. And again, we didn't really have a ton of social media experience, but we had our blog at that time and we like promoted our stuff. We were really good at Pinterest. Yeah. And this company was looking for someone that was good at Pinterest. So I was hired on, and it was just like the main company was based in Austin, Texas. And so we had a really tiny office in downtown LA, just a few of us that worked there, and I was the only one that did social media. And basically the premise of this company was like the founder was really good at SEO, and he would kind of do these seminars on like how to build your website and grow your website through search engine optimization. And at the time that was really big because blogs were like just starting. So he had like 4 main blogs, and they all basically got traffic just because he was so good at SEO. So there were people that wrote for the websites, and then I would like take the articles and promote them on all the social media. And then about halfway, maybe like after 3 or 4 months of working there, they flew us all to Texas and they did like this rebrand of the company and like restructuring. I was there for a week. It was the only time I was ever in Austin and I didn't love it, and I need to go back because I just didn't love it. But while we were there, they decided to like kind of make brand managers on each account, and then the brand managers would write the articles, or like they were editors. They were like brand managers / editors. So you write the articles and promote all your own social media. So they kind of like did like a vertical integration. And so me and this girl I worked with, who I really got along with, were put on like the beauty website. I'm not going to say it because again, it's like kind of embarrassing because you had to like basically add a ton of like keywords, so you weren't like writing like naturally so that it would get like hits. Yeah. But at the time that this restructuring happened, they did hire a new manager who oversaw all the writers, and he actually had like writing experience, and this was when I got to actually like use my journalism degree and like writing experience. Now I feel like I'm not a good writer. I feel like I lost it, but back then I was. And he like constantly told us that we were doing a really good job, me and this other girl, and that like we were worlds beyond like better writers than the other people on our team. And we both, I remember, I think had to write like 3 to 4 stories a week. And then we also did like outreach and like interviews. Like we got to go to a nail salon and like interview the owner because we were like the beauty site. So that part of the job I actually really loved. Like I loved the writing, and like we would basically give him the topics every Monday, which I think this is how editorial typically works. And he would tell us which ones to like go with. Like we would come to the meeting and be like, oh, I want to write about this, I want to write about this. He would assign us the task, and then we would just like do it in our own time. Like we would write, submit the story, he would maybe have some feedback, we'd like rewrite it, and then like post the blog post. So it was just really fun, especially the interview portion. I actually don't know if she remembers this, but I remember we loved Love and Loathing at the time. Yeah. We followed her for years, Caroline. And I had reached out to her and asked her to do like an interview on the website, and I interviewed her, which is so funny because now we're kind of like, not like internet friends, we like talk to her on DMs. I'm like, I wonder if she knows that was me, because it was literally like 10 years ago. But the company just, I didn't see like growth there. They were going through, again, like so many changes, and so I like knew I wanted to like get out of there. Yeah.
And yeah, my job had ended. It was only like 3 or 4 months.
We got these next jobs on the same day.
So yeah, my job had ended in December, and like I said, I had some savings, so I wasn't like too worried, but I started applying for places, and again was trying to like get into entertainment. Like I remember I interviewed at like NBC Universal.
I interviewed at NBC Universal too.
But like had no experience in entertainment, so of course I wasn't gonna get that job. And then I applied for a job at Studio 71, which if you guys remember back in the day, every YouTuber was a part of a multi-channel network, MCN, and this was a pretty major MCN. They had a lot of beauty girls on their roster. Manny and Patrick were both on the roster.
Really?
Yeah, so they had some pretty big names, and I was hired on to work under Ruby 71, which was like their beauty division. So it was like we would take all the beauty girls and guys content and put it on in like blog posts and like write about it. For kind of like you were saying, like SEO, and then we would also do some like original articles. And I remember, I think I was hired because we had our blog, and it was pretty.
It was doing well. At one point, our blog got like 100,000 views in a month.
Yeah, like we were doing pretty well, and she really liked my blog and was impressed with it. And another part of the job, I think I was the social like coordinator or manager. I don't really remember my title, but I had to take photos for like the Instagram, and she like liked how we curated our Instagram, and her name was Melody, and we're like still friends to this day. I love her. But and so she hired me, and I loved our team there. We were like small but mighty, but I just didn't like working in the corporate setting. This was an MCN, huge company. They would have these all hands meetings every month.
I'm gonna get into that too.
Oh my gosh, where like we would all go in the conference room, and the like higher ups would sit in the middle. We would like sit around them. It was bizarre, you guys. I know this is corporate culture, but it was
this is
so
just how
weird
everyone does it.
It was so weird to me, and I just didn't like it. I didn't like working in an office with that many people, even though our team was small. Like Melody had her office, but then we kind of just sat in like the middle in like right in like rows like computers. Like, so I really liked what we were doing, but then after like a few months, Melody and a couple of my other coworkers left to pursue other opportunities, and so I was like the only one on our team. So I knew that like my job was going to be ending because they were obviously going to shut down this like branch of the company if I was the only one still there. So I started applying to other jobs, but you can talk about it.
Yeah, so then while I was at this small marketing company, I had applied to a production assistant job at Ipsy because at the time they were opening their Ipsy studios, and they were opening Ipsy studios, but they were also everything that, this was at the time where Ipsy had like their creators that they weren't an MCN, but they like had these creators that they managed. They basically managed their careers, and then they also like, I can't remember exactly how the business model works, so I can't really speak to it, but they were kind of like salaried employees as well. Like they had an obligation to like shoot content for Ipsy and for the glam bags, but then they could do their own thing too, you know, on their own channels, because they were all up and coming at the time, like big names. And so they needed production assistants to help these creators shoot their videos in studio, like in the offices at Ipsy. And at the time we had the experience working at Clever, and it sounded like a really similar job, so I had applied, and I had gone in for an interview and like really liked the two men that I interviewed with, but I didn't get the job. And then I remember getting a call from the like HR person there like months later when I was like desperate to get out of this marketing job, and she called me and she was like, hey, like I remember you applied, you know, for a previous job here at Ipsy. I have an opening that I think you'd be really good for, which was so weird that she said this because nothing about my past experience like led to this job, but it was definitely meant to be. So she said like Ipsy was, she didn't give me a lot of details, but she said that they were buying a makeup brand and that it would be working on the makeup brand like within Ipsy. So she's like much smaller team, like a much different sort of setting. If you want to come in and interview, like we'd love to have you. So I came in and found out that it was M Cosmetics. So Michelle Fawn, who was part owner of Ipsy, was buying, and this is all public information, so I'm not like saying anything, but was buying Ipsy or buying M Cosmetics from L'Oreal at the time. So L'Oreal had started M Cosmetics as like one of their brands, and Michelle was like part owner, and then she wanted to like take it over. So her and Ipsy purchased the brand from L'Oreal, and then they were hiring an internal team to relaunch this brand. So at the time I knew what Ipsy was. Britta was a glam bag subscriber. You were?
No, I had Birchbox.
No, you had Ipsy too.
No, I had Birchbox.
No, Britta had Ipsy, I remember.
Really?
Yeah. You had it like briefly. And I knew they were a huge company, but looking back, I don't think I knew how big they were or like how big they would get.
Yeah.
Which is good because I wasn't like very nervous for the interview or anything. But I went in and I interviewed with the two team members that they had hired so far. They had hired like a social media sort of like marketing girl, and then like a team leader who was like the marketing director of M. And so they were outstanding on like the e-commerce and PD side. So my job was going to be because we were a really, like Britta said, like small and nimble team. It was going to be half working on the e-commerce side, so setting up the new website and like getting the email marketing done, and then half product development. And I had like some experience in email marketing from working at that marketing company. We also had to do our own newsletters. So I did have experience. Like I would write the newsletters and send them out and was like familiar with the whole process. But I remember I created like a custom newsletter I don't even think Canva was around at the time. For like my,
yeah, I definitely was not.
They gave me like homework to do after my first interview, and after my phone interview, and I created this like really custom looking M Cosmetics newsletter, and I think it's why I got this job because I put a ton of effort into it. But I went in and met with the two members of the team that they had hired and loved them both like right off the bat. We just like vibed right away. And I remember that like coming week they were having an Ipsy Studios like party.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, you should come by. And at the time we had been reached out to by someone else that invited us, so we got to go, and that was like the coolest event.
It was so fun, yeah.
It was really cool. I saw them both there, and they hadn't made their decision yet, And then like a week later, it was like a long process. I had like another phone interview after the in-person interview. And then they called me and told me I got the job. And then shortly after, they hired a product development manager who I worked under on the PD side, and I worked under like our team boss on the marketing side. So I love that my role was like dual. Like I got to do 2 totally different things for this brand. And yeah, it's kind of like the same. We got these jobs on the same day, and it was the same situation when you worked at Studio 71, where like we were a small team, like essentially a startup environment within this massive corporate company. Like again, we would do like the all hands meetings, and
it's still wild to me, you guys.
Yeah, I don't know why it's so weird to us. Maybe because what we didn't.
I just think it's such a waste of time.
Yeah. Sorry, this is so long. We're telling you like entire life story. We just think the details are interesting, so we want to like tell you them. But yeah, so I worked at M under Ipsy for 2 years, and I loved that job. It was the most rewarding thing. I feel like I'm gonna like cry talking about it. I loved Michelle, and we were just like a team of 4 that really like took her ideas and like for this new brand. We worked with a like designer on the logo and that whole process. Like I got to be involved in every single part of like essentially starting a business, which looking back was the most crucial learning experience because it really taught me how to start our businesses later on. It was like business school 101. I knew nothing about product development, so I learned everything from my boss at the time. And so like we would work together with Michelle on like creating the colors and the formulas. And we only launched with 2 products, the Infinite Lip Clouds and the Illustrative Eyeliners. But I remember it being like so much work and so rewarding at that launch party. I planned our entire launch party by myself. And they gave me a budget. I was young. I had no idea what to do. I had to like find a venue.
How old were you, like 25?
I was like 24, maybe 25. Yeah. Find a venue. It was like a very massive party. It taught me I did not like planning events, and I likely will not want to have a big wedding because of it. It was like so stressful. I had to plan. We did like booths at Generation Beauty, which was Ipsy's sort of like, what were they called? They were not like trade shows, but like beauty shows. I had to plan all our booth stuff in that time, and we did one in San Francisco and New York, and I remember I couldn't go to New York. I was at a wedding. But I had to like make sure everything was shipped in for the booth. I had to arrive early by myself, like make sure everything was being set up correctly. It was just a lot of work, and I learned so much there. And yeah, I built the website on Shopify by myself. Like we had our designers sort of design the wireframe, and then I worked with them to like figure out how to do it without hiring someone to like make a custom website. So everything was so scrappy, and I just had like, it was just, I look back at that time and I loved it. I loved the people that worked at Ipsy, like the larger company too. I'm still friends with a lot of them to this day. And then, do you want to go to yours next?
Yeah, so I had like a whole time in my life where I was at a job for like 3 months and I would leave. So I did Fab Life, which was a 3-month contract. Then I went to Studio 71. I think I was only there for like 3 or 4 months before I was let go. But I did, like I said, I knew that I was going to be let go. So I started interviewing. So I got my job at BeautyCon, like I started basically right after I left Studio 71. So that was good, like that I had that lined up. And I was hired at BeautyCon to be a social media, not manager, like coordinator, I believe. So when I started, they had one girl doing social media, but they needed like a social team because we were posting a lot about like the different events. Like if you're unfamiliar with BeautyCon, it's like the same thing as Gen Beauty, like a beauty event in various cities. So like brands would buy a booth and exhibit, and then consumers would pay a ticket for entry, and they could shop like all these different brands in one place. So
they were really cool events.
Yeah, they were really cool, and BeautyCon was huge at the time, and the office was really cool. It was in Hollywood before we even lived in Hollywood, I think.
Yes, okay, the office for Ipsy was in Santa Monica, and we never lived on the west side. My commute was insane. Insane.
It's so far. Sorry, I'm like, I need like a coffee or something. Anyway, so I love the office. It was very like vibey and cool, and I just felt like cool working there. And at the time, we were both getting really into beauty, like YouTube makeup.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. I just started getting into makeup when I got this job at M. Like I was not a lifelong makeup lover. So it was so funny, but I quickly got into it.
Yeah, so we were both pretty into makeup at the time, and so I got this job, and they had one girl doing social media, but it wasn't really like her given job. She was just doing it because nobody else was. And then they hired this girl, Amy, to work above me. She was my boss, and I really loved her. She was from Canada, and we got along really well. She was really good at social media, so I feel like I learned a lot from her. But she would kind of do like the overall strategy, and then I would like implement it. And we had lots of different events that we were invited to, so I think that was my favorite part. I had an intern, Sarah, and I loved her too. And Sarah and I would like go to these events and like interview celebrities. Like we talked to Paris Hilton once at like her perfume event, and we went to several events, and I loved that, like just going and like seeing what these brands do and talking to people. Again, talking to people has always been like something we've really enjoyed.
Yeah. When I first worked at Ipsy, they also did this cool thing where they would have like these like cocktail hours with different brands, like on, I think it was like on Wednesdays, and they were so fun. Like you, like the brands would come in and then they'd invite influencers, but also just like regular people, and I don't know, it'd be like, like I feel like all these things that all these companies used to do like don't exist anymore.
Yeah.
And it was so cool.
Agreed. And I also got to go to New York and help with social there at one of the events, and that was so cool because I always wanted to like travel to New York for work. But I remember we had the event in LA, and Amy was like on the floor interviewing people, and she would like send me videos and like photos and be like, post this, post this. And so I was like posting what she was telling me, and then like at the end of it was like very overwhelming. Like it was a lot to post, a lot to keep up with, and then there was also like we would have to promote brands because it was like part of the package they bought. Like, oh, we'll like shout you out on social this amount of times. So I was trying to balance like the live interviews with the branded like sponsored posts, and it was so overwhelming. I like realized how much I hated social media at that job, like how it's so constant. You're always having to post, even like on the weekends. Like I think at that time was when schedulers like started to become a thing, so I think I could schedule them, but I would still have to respond to comments because there's always people asking like, how do I get tickets? We were always doing giveaways, like just lots of interacting. And so after that event, I just realized like it was really overwhelming for me, and the company, like the culture had changed a lot, even in like the few months that I'd been there. And there was just like some drama.
I mean, you probably know if you Google things.
Yeah, and there was just some drama, and so I was like, okay, I like don't want to be here anymore. So like I said, I was at BeautyCon, but like really unhappy, and so I was looking for other jobs. And at the time, a former coworker of mine had reached out and said like, we would love, it was a couple of my former coworkers had said like, we would love for you to come work with us, and we're looking for a coordinator for our website. Like that's chat about it. So we met them at the Ciate and Chloe Morello like launch party of her palette, and Chloe's so sweet, and it was good to catch up with them. They basically offered me the job, and it was a platform where you could take, like a creator could take their video and add links to everything. It was kind of like a shoppable post, but it would, instead of just adding it in the description box, it was like you could like visually see it. It was a good idea at the time. And so my job was to write like some original content around these videos, and so I was doing like blog posts. Again, I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I really loved my coworkers. And then they told me that we were also going to be launching a nail polish line, KO Polish, with Kathleen Lights, and I love Kathleen's content, so I was really excited. And like Carli was on like the beauty like brand side, and so I was like, okay, like she really likes that. I feel like working for like a beauty brand would be fun. But I think we're all kind of like, it was kind of like an all hands thing because we were like building this brand from scratch. So I was still working on the blog post side of things and doing like my coordinator role, social, a little bit of social, but then I was also helping to like launch this nail polish line, just a little bit at the beginning, kind of more so with like the marketing, like social media again, and I was like the one like running the Instagram account. And then I met Kathleen when she came to LA, and we did her like launch video, and she's so sweet. I love her. She's just as sweet and like charming as she seems in her videos. And so I worked on that brand, and then the original like partner that we had basically like went our separate ways. So then Kathleen kind of hired like the LA team on as herself, like her and her husband Danny hired us, and Danny is amazing too. They were like amazing to work with. I love them so much. And we worked on KO Polish, then became Lights Lacquer and Lights Label, which was like her merch company. They let me do all the PD for like Lights Label, which was a lot of like clothing, accessories, things like that, and then also helping on the nail polish side. So I really liked that because I kind of worked on like a lot of different projects, and I think it was really good practice on how to balance a lot of projects at once, because I had like this whole tracker I had to set up of, you know, like where we were at with each project, the cost of goods, and like just like kind of getting all the information in one place, which really set me up for our next job. Yeah, so again, sort of like parallel lives. So as Britta was going through that transition, a similar thing happened with M. So again, this is all like public knowledge, but Michelle ended up buying M Cosmetics from Ipsy and wanting to do it like all herself. So she brought over most of the same team that was working on the brand under Ipsy. And we worked out of this like small satellite office again in Santa Monica. And then also at that time we got to work from home, which was really nice. Like I had never really like worked from home before. So that was even like more scrappy because, you know, we were like once, you know, owned by this like larger corporation, and then now like back at like the really small scrappy environment, which is what I thrive in, what I love. And then slowly the brand just started to like hire more and more people. They got an office in Culver City, which was a little bit closer to where we lived, and they really like built out the PD team. And so I continued, then at that point I moved fully over to PD. This was like the transition I think happened in like, I don't know, 2017, 2018, I have to like look back. And actually at that time when we were transitioning this ownership, my coworker who I had worked with at M, she was like my PD boss, was leaving to sort of like start her own company, which we'll circle back to, with her friend who had also worked in the beauty industry for a long time, or she was like starting him on his venture. And they were looking to hire one person. They hadn't hired anyone yet, and they needed someone that like knew the business but was like super flexible and could basically do whatever needed to get done. And at the time I was just like, ooh, like I don't know if I'm ready. I like want more experience on a brand before doing that, and I like wanted like something a bit more stable still. So I turned it down, but we'll circle back to that. And so then I ended up working at M, fully on the product development team for 2 more years. And I also loved my time there. I feel like at that point I was actually a hybrid like product development operations role. So I managed our 3PL, which is like the third-party logistics. So like scheduling freight, and also like all of our kitting projects that our 3PL would do for us. I like managed that. Managed like anything that went wrong with orders, and like for a while I was managing customer service. Like just again learned so many valuable skills that you need to like start your own business. So I loved it. I loved our team there. Like nothing bad to say. The products are also really incredible. If you've never tried M Cosmetics, the formulas are top notch. Like highly recommend everything. And then also at that time though, we kind of skipped over, while I was still at Ipsy, we got A Beautiful Mess. Yeah, because I want to touch on one more thing. So when I was at KL Polish, it was kind of like everyone was kind of all hands on that brand because it was how we were making the most money. And then I kind of transitioned from doing like coordinator roles to marketing, and I did like the social media, but I did the email marketing, and I feel like that was good practice in like working with a graphic designer on like emails and going back and forth. And I did that at M too. I did that for like 2 years, working with a graphic designer and finding out the emails. It was good practice. Something good to mention. So yeah, at the time we were still blogging, and like really loved, this was still kind of when blogging was a thing. So we started writing for A Beautiful Mess, which was truly a dream come true for us. Elsie and Emma are like our OG blogging idols. Yeah, we loved the blog so much, and we just saw a post one day where they said they were hiring freelance writers to like help keep up with all the articles they had to write. And we were like, why don't we just apply? Yeah. And I'll never forget when we got the email saying that we were accepted. Yeah. We were so excited. We ended up only doing it for a couple months. I think that they were just looking for people that were like more like fully DIY content, and we did a lot of DIY on our blog, but not a ton, like not what they were looking for. So it just sort of like fizzled out. Yeah. But it was the best couple months. It was the best, and we had so much fun like putting together those posts. We'll link a few down below if they're still up, because they might still be up. Yeah, hopefully. I know they like really renovated their website. Yeah. And then we also wrote for, sorry, I'm just looking at the list, for the Hot Mess, Ashley Tisdale's lifestyle website. We also wrote blog posts for her, and then we ended up meeting her at an event for AfterBuzz. We were there for AfterBuzz, and I think we mentioned this before on our channel, I'm not quite sure. And we saw her there, and she was like, oh, you guys write for the Hot Mess, right? We were like shocked she recognized us. We're like, oh yeah, like thanks for the opportunity, and she was really sweet. And so we really liked
another
that
great
as well.
experience.
Yeah.
So yeah, then, okay,
Yeah.
at that time, well, you've left, so you can go into it.
Yeah. I like started to like put feelers out to see if I could get a job working for a beauty brand, because I realized that I really loved the beauty space and working on the brand side of things. And then Carli had like mentioned, oh well, her former coworker was starting this new company, and at that point I think they had a few employees. So
Yeah, but she was like, always, every time we caught up, she would like tell me how fast they were growing.
Yeah.
And like always needed help, and would be like, whenever you want to come over. And I was like, oh, Britta's really looking for a new job, and she's like, oh, we'll have her come interview.
Yeah, so I came in and interviewed with them, and at that time, like, I just didn't have enough experience that they were looking for, which is understandable. I didn't, like, in the beauty brand space specifically, for PD, because I had been doing mostly marketing, and so they said, like, maybe not right now, but, like, we'll reach out. And then I interviewed a second time, maybe like a few months later.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
They were growing quick.
And I went back again and I interviewed them, or she had called me for a phone interview. I remember this because she was in New York, and she was like, well, we really just need people. Like, I think that you seem so capable. So like, if you want to come in and meet with the other brand manager,
Project manager
at the time, I'd love for you to meet her so I can get like her thoughts. So I went in and met with her, and I remember telling her all about my tracker that I had, again, to track all my projects, and she said that's what won her over, because the job that we had was so like
project-based.
There's so many projects, and if you didn't have a way to organize it, you were just not going to make it.
You're gonna get lost.
Yeah, and so she said that when I told her about my tracker and I physically showed her my tracker, like my sheet, she was like, that like sold me. So I got hired there. It's SOS Beauty.
So it's the job we just left.
We're
only saying it because we just left, and we talked about it before.
We talked about it before. It's on our LinkedIn, obviously, but so I was hired as a project manager, and at that time they were still pretty small. Like, they didn't have too many brands, so it was pretty manageable, but it was kind of overwhelming at the beginning because I didn't really have the experience, but I am a quick learner.
Yeah.
So I felt like
Yeah, Britta's a really fast learner. She would like ask me questions like, Carli, what's this? What's that? And like just tell her, and I'm like, I hope she's figuring this out.
Yeah, I figured it out quick. I felt like you had to. It was like sink or swim. And I think that's how I felt in most of my jobs. Like, if you don't figure it out, then you're just not going to succeed.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've always wanted to like succeed at, you know, as most people do. So anyway, I was there. I started in July, the end of July.
Of 2019.
Of 2019.
Yeah. And then I was also, so like around this time, was thinking about leaving M, because I don't know, we're Aquariuses, so being at a job for 4 years, like that's a very long time, even though we did switch ownership and I switched roles many times. So I was thinking about leaving and just like learn more experience from other brands, because I had only worked on the one beauty brand. And so after Britta got started at SOS, then I remember I had spoken to my former manager, and she was like, okay, like, we really need people. Are you like ready to come over? And I was like, yeah, like I wanna make the move now. So this was December 2019, the weirdest timing we know.
Yeah.
And so yeah, then we were both working together. We were both project managers. We worked on so many different brands, so many cool brands, so much experience was gained during that time. And then yeah, I only worked in the office for like a couple months before we were shut down. And then obviously we started working in the office again. But
one thing I want to mention though is at this time when I was still at either KL or Light Slacker, I can't remember the timing. Carli was at M. We started our photography business.
I feel like we're forgetting like so many things along the way.
I'm trying to like reference the list. But we realized that like at that time our jobs were like manageable, I would say. Like, we had open weekends. Tommy was living here, so I wasn't driving back and forth to San Diego anymore. And we just wanted like another stream of income. So we had been, it was so weird.
We manifested this.
I know we talked about this before, but I specifically remember it like so as clear as day. And we were in the car, like coming back, I want to say from Vaughn's or like somewhere, it was somewhere in Hollywood. and we were like, what if we just like started reaching out to brands and asking if they wanted us to like take lifestyle photos for their Instagram, because this was obviously before video was on Instagram. It was just photos,
and we knew that brands were struggling. Like if you didn't have internal social media teams, like there was no content being put out there.
Yeah, exactly. And we had been doing lots of photography for our blog, and even back then I think it was pretty good.
Yeah.
Like we had like a nice camera, we had good lighting, because it was when we lived at our apartment in Hollywood.
The best lighting.
The best lighting.
We were on the 4th floor.
Yeah, and it was so high up, like so sunny. In Carli's room specifically, we would get like such good lighting. So I felt like our pictures looked really professional that we would post on our blog and on our Instagram. And so it was kind of like our portfolio of sorts. And we said like, what if we should just like think about doing this as like some extra money? The very next day, we got reached out to by this random spa brand that was like, we really love your photography style. Like, we would love to pay you to take some pictures for our Instagram. Like, what? Yeah. Yeah, it was meant to be.
So then we just kept getting more and more clients, and then at that point we also knew that we wanted to start our own business, and we knew it was going to be candles.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's do this for like a year and a half. I think 2 years maybe. 2 years maybe.
Oh, we did it for a while, because we did it even after we
launched.
launched.
But like, let's do this for like, save up for a year. And we got a really big client during that time.
Yeah, we have to talk about it because, okay, so Hatch Beauty, if you guys are familiar with them, at the time Ben Bennett was working as, was he their CEO?
Yeah.
And so we had we reached out to them, or did they reach out to us?
I think we've reached out to them, but didn't hear back for like months, like maybe like 6 months.
Yeah, and we knew that they had several brands on their roster, and so they would be a good client of ours because they probably had lots of needs for different content.
First photography.
And then they finally called us, and they were like, we'd love for you to come in for like an interview to hear more about like, you know, what your process is and like what our needs are. And I think that in our minds we thought it was like this casual interview.
Yeah,
we were not prepared.
it was not. We met with Ben himself plus a ton of other people. But I think it like helped us that we were so casual and just sort of confident. We're like, well, yeah, let's just take photos and see if you like them.
Yeah, and so at the time they had 4 brands that they needed photos for, and so they hired us to do, it was a set number of photos and gifts per brand per month. So it was like a pretty good chunk of money. But when I tell you, we were every Saturday and Sunday, we were taking pictures
every Saturday and Sunday, taking photos all day Saturday for like 8 hours, and then editing them for again like another 8 hours. And we would do like gifts and photos, and it was a lot. And we would do this every single weekend.
Yeah, and we really, I have to say, we credit Ben Bennett for like giving that opportunity, because I remember he was like, well, like we don't really have any, like he was basically like throwing us a bone.
Yeah.
He was like we're so unprepared for meeting you guys. Like we didn't bring anything with us. We were just like really so like
also
confident.
he owns the
well, that's what I want to say. It's like, yeah, so he was like, I like you guys. He was also from the Midwest. He's like, I like you guys. So let's just see, like we'll do it for like we signed a contract I think for only 3 months.
Yeah.
And then but we continue to work for them for like at least a year. And Ben has since gone on to, he owns the Center brands, which is Naturium, Fleur,
Saltaire,
I
feel like we're forgetting
and Make. So Ben like knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And
Which ironically, a lot of people we've since worked with have come from Hatch Beauty.
Yes. Yeah. And so we really credit him with giving us the opportunity, because without that
account, we wouldn't have had the money to launch Dyad.
Yeah.
And everything happens for a reason, but also we were never handed a single thing. We worked hard.
Yeah.
We only had that money to launch that brand because we worked hard with this photography business. Yeah. But yeah, so then we ended that. We kept doing photography for a while when we worked at SOS, but it just sort of like phased out. I feel like there's so many more people that do like
now,
that kind of work.
And now it's like all the brands want TikToks, and that's not our specialty, and we don't have time for it anymore.
Yeah. So I feel like if we ever got like approached and it was like the right client, we would do it. But yeah, it's like not what we do anymore. But we did it for years, and then we worked at SOS, and that job was, I mean, they kept growing so fast, and which is amazing. We learned so much there, but we left in November of last year to launch Clean Coats and focus on Clean Coats and Dyad, and working for ourselves is definitely my favorite role yet. We hope, please buy our stuff so we can continue in these roles. But we had so many jobs, and when you look back, I'm sure everyone finds this, but you like take so much of it with you and whatever your like dream job is. Like our dream job was always to be entrepreneurs, and we 100% needed the experience working at working at KL Polish, and working at SOS Beauty to have known what to do when it came to launching our brands. And even our photography business was our first business. Yeah. So like that's when we set up our LLC and like got like, you know, smart about business. So everything happens for a reason. You learn things from every job. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm so sorry, these were so long. Like, it might have been 3 parts. I'm sure you only made it to the end if you like actually care about us and like what we've done. If you did make it to the end, thank you so much, because wow. But we hope you found this interesting, and we'll see you in the next one.